wonder why some people seem more comfortable in following their instincts and their intuition, going with their gut rather than a set plan. We're sharing advice so you'll know when to act on those instincts and when not to. Studio 5 relationship coach Dr. Matt Townsend is here with a few guidelines on trusting your gut. And guess what? I don't know if you know this about me.
What? No.
I'm a go with your gut girl.
Go with your gut. That's great. Me too.
It served me well. I think in so many, well, fake it till you make it is another side of that coin. But it really has served me well. Just that gut intuition. Are some people wired that way to go off script?
Yeah, probably. And some people maybe just have more confidence to just trust it and go with it. Like a lot of times you don't need to know what's going to happen, but I know I can get it to work.
Right.
So there's a confidence. But you got to be careful because sometimes your gut isn't right. Sometimes your gut will tell you to do something that actually is good for survival maybe, but not great for growth. Right?
Interesting.
Because we grew a reactive, instinctive approach to life. We grew that over years of evolving and making us who we are. The problem is who we are isn't maybe a risk taker. And there might be a perfect moment to take a risk. And so we got to make sure we're getting our feelings from the right source.
I think that's key, and I think this is a really pertinent topic for women in particular because we pride ourselves in that mommy intuition, right?
Yeah, right?
But you point out women can really be burned by this as well, as I have in certain situations because you go with your emotion over what's right.
That's right. And so at some point, remember, all of our feelings that we have, and we're highly feeling humans. We're supposed to feel. And these feelings are telling us something. But one of the things you got to watch out for is there's different types of feelings, and some of those feelings are for survival. So a mommy might suggest, let's be protective and careful, when really it might hurt our child down the road, because the child may not know how to survive without a protective mom. And then the minute the child's away from the mom, then it gets in trouble or gets hurt because it doesn't know how to use its own instinct. So one of the rules with all of this is if the feelings are overwhelming, and they're designed, by the way, to get you to move and to act, let the first kind of flow of emotion go over you. Don't always take the bite on the first push of emotion.
So slow down, take a breath.
Slow down and allow the reaction and your need to react to just kind of pass over you at first. Now, that is unless there's a tiger loose in the zoo chasing you.
Then don't slow down.
Then go with your physical
Just run.
reaction.
Just run.
And get out of there.
You also point out the next step in this process is to identify where these feelings are coming from.
That's right. And so I said that the feelings are going to come from different places. We have body feelings that come from our body. When you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're afraid, when you're anxious, a lot of those are coming from your physiology, and they're telling you something. You know, like when you've ever been walking and you sense somebody was watching you. You might want to trust that feeling, but notice what it is. Is it a physiological kind of chemical feeling? Is it something like that repeats? Like if you have anxiety, your anxiety could come from your thinking, or it just could come from your physiology. So some feelings come from our body, our physiology. Some, though, come from our mind, our thinking. And I've talked about this before, that humans are the only animals on Earth that are chronically stressed. We're chronically nervous.
That's depressing.
It's horrible. But what's interesting is because we have a mind that thinks on its own. We start to think about the worries. We think about tomorrow. We make them bigger. We magnify them. We embellish.
We let that mind take over.
And we think about yesterday. Oh, why didn't I do that? And now she's wondering if I care about her. So I probably ought to call her. But right now I got to get the kids to the. That's the mind. That's a different feeling.
You just got right inside my head and spelled it out well. So how do you know which feelings then to trust?
You have to start kind of honing in and tuning into, is this something I'm creating by my thinking, or is this something that I'm just feeling when I wake up in the morning? When you wake up in the morning and you're anxious, that's probably anxiety from the body. But if you're anxious after not having your 50 to-do list things done, that's another thing. You can also get your promptings or your feelings from your spirit, or your essence that I call it, this deep inner you, which usually doesn't bring a ton of anxiety and fear. It usually brings a sense of confidence and calm and peace and love. And that's a different feeling than what your mind might bring or what your body might bring.
So get personal for us. How do you know when it's your higher self prompting you or when it's your mind or your body?
Now, the funny thing is I don't always know in the minute, but I usually can then detect later. And it kind of gets to our next point. Once you've identified where your feelings are coming from, then I can start to get to my highest self. My highest self is going to lead me to a different place than my human side will. My human side will make sure I eat today. My human side will make me sleep. It's what gets kids in trouble when they're teenagers in the backseat of a Cadillac. It gets a lot of weird stuff. Our human side will get us to feel, to do. But my highest self actually makes it so I grow, so I learn, so I do hard things.
But if you can't recognize your higher self in the moment, then how do you know?
You can. The only way you can is by looking at it out of time.
Okay.
So if I just had an experience and I was confused and I didn't know what happened and I got mad and my feelings of my body made me get really angry and I yelled at my kids, then I need to take that offline and learn and figure out what happened there. Well, I was starving. I hadn't eaten all day. I come home and my kids are fighting and I have to run a carpool and I'm embarrassed because my kid's the only kid without a Scout shirt. So that's a mix of my body and my mind getting involved. And I kind of can sit back and I can hold it up and look at it. And if you'll do that more in your life, you'll start to discern that there's something I could have done that would have been better.
So there's a training factor to this. The more you recognize it, the more you do it.
That's right. And whatever brings you peace, whatever drives you to learn more, whatever helps you to focus on your highest self, whatever things and feelings you have that drive you to your highest values and principles. If I just yelled at my kids, I already know that wasn't my spirit side.
Right.
So anything that takes you away from your highest values, your highest learning, and another thing is from your future. Because if you don't want this to be brought up at your funeral, it's probably not what you should be doing.
Wise words.
So you ought to be in it for the long term. And the funny thing about the human side, it tends to be very short-term focused. Today, survival, get through today. But your higher self is always about being a better person over the long haul.
Love it.
It's willing to be patient and learn with you over time.
Love it, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
really
Brooklyn.
empowering stuff. We are extending an invitation right now for all Studio 5 friends, members of our Studio 5 family, to join us for your Valentine's date night.
Date night. I'm announcing it in a couple of weeks about the topic. It's February 11th. Go to datenightswithmatt.com. But you bring your spouse. We'll laugh. We'll cry. Tons of fun. But we are going to be blowing up selfishness.
Ooh.
We're going to show how to pull selfishness out of your marriage.
Not that your marriage needs it.
Not yours, but your friends.
Yeah.
So bring them because they need this.
It's always a lot of fun. We look forward to it. We'll share more details in the weeks to come, but put it on your calendar. Thank you so much.
Brooke.